Let me turn down the music. Hey everyone, welcome into the Nerd Herd Rookie Mock Draft with all you guys with guest star Dan Toomey. Dan, tell us about yourself and what you do and where we can find you and all that stuff.
Awesome. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. Name is Dan Toomey. You've probably seen me before. I've done a couple of these live streams with Pete by now. You can find me on Twitter at DanT_NFL, senior writer for Dynasty Nerds, deep into rookie profile season right now. I actually had a piece on Rashee Rice released last week. I'm working on Parker Washington, the Penn State wide receiver right now. So stay tuned to Dynasty Nerds every day. There's new articles dropping. And then if anybody is a Nerd Herd member, I host a couple live shows on our private members only Discord. We do Monday nights mock draft Monday, kind of similar to what we'll do this afternoon, but a little more intimate with Tim and I. We spent a couple hours on that. And then I even like to throw in some roster reviews every now and again. We did a random show last Wednesday, intending to stay on for about 45 minutes. And then 2.5 hours later, Tim and I finally had to tap out. So it's always nice interacting with all the Nerd Herd members on our Discord. So if you're not a member, definitely consider. It's probably the best time of the year to do it. You can use my promo code LUNA, LUNA, and get 15% off at checkout for a Dynasty Nerds Nerd Herd membership.
Awesome. Oh, and we do have an announcement about the draft. Do you want to drop that really fast too?
Yeah, so something that I've been working on for a couple weeks now, and it's finally gotten to the point where I can start sharing it with the public. Dynasty Nerds will be doing a live stream watch-along type show concurrent with the actual NFL draft, April 27th and April 28th. And yours truly, I'll be hosting, along with our good friend Tim Martins, we'll be hosting nights 1 and 2 of the NFL draft. We'll be live about 4 to 5 hours each night. We'll have a panel of guests, Dynasty experts, some people that work in the scouting community, some of your favorite nerds, writers will be on as well. So it's going to be a really fun time. I hope we can get a lot of viewers to come out and join us. We'll get to react live to rookies as they're drafted. Maybe we'll even get some trades happening nights 1 and 2. So it'll be your number one spot for, I don't want to gloat, probably the most instantaneous Dynasty reactions to the NFL draft as it happens. So it's a project I've been working on for a couple weeks now. I'm very excited to be able to announce it and to share it with everybody. And I'm really looking forward to the turnout we're going to get that weekend.
No, I'm going to be so excited for that and watch you guys all show your knowledge. I mean, this is what we do, and you can get a lot of draft content coverage everywhere else, but if you want Dynasty focused draft instantaneous coverage from a lot of knowledgeable writers and just content creators, this is going to be the spot to be at. So
yeah, one thing I always tell like my friends and coworkers is, I'm not sure how you feel about this, Peter, but I've noticed is mainstream sports media has become a lot more shallow as we go through the years. And I feel like I find myself like when I was in high school, I'd watch SportsCenter and ESPN nearly every day. And now that I'm progressing in age, now I look to like NFL Network for more comprehensive coverage. And now it's gotten even past that point where I'm not even watching TV. I'm like looking out to outlets like, Pro Football Focus or something. And I feel like there is a big demand for like actual in-depth analysis, because if you watched anything ESPN has produced recently, it's very shallow level content. Not to take shots at big stream media, but I feel like this is the type of content that people who tune into stuff like this really want. They want like live, in-depth analysis of these prospects, and it's just something that you can't find on mainstream media. I mean, look at the Pat McAfee show. He had 1.5 million viewers for the Aaron Rodgers show last week. It just shows that this industry is trending towards that direction of people seeking out more qualified expertise when it comes to events like this.
I love it. Okay, so we have 2 spots open in the Superflex draft, and right now I'm just going to drop the link to the one quarterback draft as well. So if anyone wants to do the one quarterback draft, right now I ask if you are already in a draft, to not double up, give space for people who want to join. But that being said, so we're going to do the Superflex mock draft first, and then we will do the one quarterback draft after that. So
Awesome.
I'll drop. So the last link I dropped was for the Superflex. No, for the one quarterback, and this one is for the Superflex draft.
Awesome. And I think I just want to mention, because I know Peter's been doing a lot of these shows recently, and I think for anybody new to the stream, this is a great time to start your rookie mock drafts. We've been doing them, since January, it feels like, over at the company. But for those that are maybe just getting back into Dynasty nowadays, the playoffs finish and you kind of put your sleeper app on mute for a while and took a break. This is a great time to start polishing up on the rookie class, figuring out where players are going and what the consensus is on various prospects. And this is the time where you can get an edge over your league mates, because I'll be honest, a lot of the more casual Dynasty leagues I'm in with friends or coworkers, they're not going to pay attention to the rookies until closer to the actual NFL draft. So if you start mocking with us now, you can get a better pulse on the trends and the flows of how these rookies are being selected. And especially now that free agency is, we're actually a week into free agency. So it's becoming more clear where the good landing spots are, where the bad landing spots may be. And it's a good time to get a feel for the draft class as a whole.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so Superflex draft is filled. This will be a Superflex PPR tight end premium draft, 1 minute picks. So we're gonna have to keep on our toes, but let's start this off. And I decided, I'm gonna make it easy on myself. I gave myself the 101, and that means that I get Bijan Robinson, rookie running back 1, dynasty running back 1, all that stuff. I'm curious. So Underdog, we're sponsored by them. Have you drafted Robinson in any of your Underdog drafts yet?
I have not been able to get him so far. So for those that don't know, his ADP on Underdog right now is running back 4. Yeah, that's overall. Currently, before the NFL draft, he's being selected as running back 4 on the Underdog Best Ball app, which I always tell people that even prior to our deal with Underdog, I've always used them as my ADP resource because it's constantly updated with live real-time drafts. Yeah. And so I think I want to say it's been maybe a month now that Bijan's been running back 4 on Underdog, which is just crazy to think about. I'm not sure if we've ever seen a running back being drafted so highly before we even know where he's going to go.
Yeah, at least that I can remember. Because with Zeke, it was Zeke and Barkley. It was kind of when they were drafted so high, and the landing spot made sense. But I even think with Barkley, there were a lot of questions about him. I remember getting him in a lot of second rounds of redraft leagues. Yeah, when he was a rookie. So anyway, we got a pretty regular start. I would say that JSN at the 4th overall pick is a surprise. Do you have him? Where do you have him? And would you pick quarterback Richardson or Levis over him, or is he really that wide receiver 1 for you?
So JSN is wide receiver 1 for me, but my current rankings, I would take him after the quarterbacks. Just quarterback is so valuable in a super flex league that, and all these guys, every media company I listen to and hear has all 4 quarterbacks going in the top 8 currently. So I don't see a world where I would want to take a wide receiver over a quarterback that was drafted with top 8 NFL draft capital. Because the signal there with draft capital so high is you're going to see those quarterbacks, maybe not year 1, but definitely year 2. And they're going to, with most certainty, play out their rookie contract. Zach Wilson is obviously a terrible outlier right now in that, but you've seen quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield struggle in Cleveland. He played out his entire rookie deal as a starter. You've seen Trey Lance is another interesting case, but you've seen quarterbacks taking that high that even though they struggle, they do get the full 4 years to prove what they have, because it's a sunk cost fallacy. The franchise invested so much draft capital into them that they want to almost prove to themselves that they made the right choice with the guy. So they're going to give him the opportunity to succeed. So you're guaranteed a quarterback that is going to maybe not produce for your fantasy team, but you'll have an idea of what to do with that player by the time their rookie contract is expired.
Perfect. That's awesome. We actually got a question on Twitter about the 11th spot, and you are drafting from the 11th spot. So I do not have the question in front of me. It was pretty much the value of the 11th spot. Do you trade back? Do you trade up? What are you thinking?
So I've come to realize that for last night, Tim and I came to this realization, and we talked this theory through together, and we agree on it. Right now, in Superflex drafts, up to the 8th spot is usually pretty chalk with consensus. And after the 8th spot, we call it chaos mode for the first round, because any number of people can go any number of ways with that 8th pick. So I think there is a tier break with the 7th spot. And I actually have the 11th spot in one of my leagues. And the two conversations I'm having with various owners are trading from 11 to 7 to get into that first tier of rookie players, or trading out of 11 and starting to collect second round picks. Because I think if you can get a bounty of second round picks, you can walk away with a number of high upside dart throws in this draft class. But I feel like 9 to maybe 12 is a bit of a dead spot right now when it comes to rookie draft value.
Totally agree. Side note, Tajay Spears is not crazy at the 201 if he gets day 2 draft capital. If he doesn't, if he's not drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round, I am dropping him down my board like no one's business. But currently, he is my running back 3, and I am proud of that.
Yeah, well, I gotta say my running back 4 is still on the board, so we'll see. We'll see if he lasts to me.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. So I'm gonna go through a couple questions right now, and let me know if you see anything from the draft board that you want to talk about. But currently, I would say a pretty just Zach Evans going to 2-2. I haven't seen that recently, at least. Spears going at 2-1. Yeah, I get it. Like, that's kind of against consensus.
I want to ask you about A-Chain, because I know Jared and Garrett, they've been releasing their nerd scores, and he scored very highly. And I haven't been seeing him going in the first round of many of the rookie drafts I'm in. What are your thoughts about A-Chain as a late first round running back selection in this draft class?
It's kind of the same thing with Spears for me. It's all draft capital. If a team takes him high and shows that they want to use him, I'm fine with him going in the first. I think he'll probably go back into the 3rd to the 4th to 5th round, that kind of area.
You mean in the actual
totally
NFL
wrong.
draft?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And if he goes there, I mean, I like him. I think that he has good talent. He's really stuck in that tier with like, oh man, I should have my rankings in front of me, but like he's in a tier with Bigsby and Miller.
Yes. Oh my God.
There we go.
My boy,
Merry Christmas.
My boy, Roshan Johnson. Let me tell you, getting a prototypically sized 3-down workhorse back with minimal usage in college at the end of the 2nd round, chef's kiss. Just makes my Tuesday. Makes it such a great day.
Oh man, Kayshon Boutte keeps dropping to the 3rd round, and I don't want him. But I mean, I look at everyone else. Am I gonna go all running back? Nah. I'm thinking about Musgrave here, but that's another just landing dependent spot for me and how high he gets drafted.
Yeah, the tight ends are very interesting because we did a mock draft based off of an actual PFF mock draft with landing spots. And we had a scenario where all four of the big four tight ends were all taken before like the late second round. We had a couple.
Yeah, Kincaid went like 11th overall in that.
Yeah, because he wound up going to the Chiefs, which has got to be like the. I feel like Chiefs and Bengals are the two like hot spot tight end landing spots with first round draft capital. If
Musgrave went to the Chiefs.
Wait,
Kincaid went 11 to the Titans, I believe. Joel asks,
the one we were looking at had Kincaid going to the Chiefs with the last pick of the first round.
Oh man, that would be...
Musgrave went to the Raiders in the early second round.
Oh man, he would... His draft value would just skyrocket if that happened. Joel asks, is Johnson similar to an AJ Dillon? To me, I would say that Johnson is closer to a little bit more physical Brian Robinson. That's kind of what I think of. What about you? What's your comp?
No, I would agree. That's the one name that's come out of my head for Roshan. Is a better version of a Brian Robinson.
Yep. I love that. Okay, so a baby hippo asks, let's see. There we go. I have a question. What should we do with Zeke? I have him since a rookie, and he has a lot of sentimental value. Do you think he will find a landing spot and be productive?
So we were actually talking about this during the pre-show, and I think this is going to be the question of the spring. I will say, first of all, I don't think Zeke gets signed to a team until well after the NFL draft, maybe even closer to training camp. He seems like the type of veteran player, almost like a Jadeveon Clowney. Every year, Jadeveon Clowney's a free agent. He doesn't sign until August. And it's not because he's being very picky with his teams. It's because he doesn't want to go to training camp. He's like, I'm a veteran. I'm better than that. Maybe he could use some training camp experience. I don't know. He's not looked great the past couple of years. But I feel like Zeke is the type of player who will wait until the preseason begins to sign a deal, which is going to mean that we're going to see his value probably fall even further than it is right now, I hate to say. Right now, everyone has, candy cane wishes and pipe dreams of Zeke landing, somewhere like Buffalo as the goal line back, or even in a place like Kansas City on like a veteran minimum deal. And I just don't think that he's going to be signing a deal until later in the offseason. So if you can't do anything but hold Zeke right now. Like him being a free agent combined with rookie draft fever, like what are you going to get for him? A third? Yeah, he's a hold right now, and I hesitate to make him a buy either because I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze for what you can get out of him. Now, just give me 1 second. I just got to make my selection before my
for me. I mean, the ultimate landing spot that I would love would be the Eagles. Just he gets to play the Cowboys 2 times a year, and Penny's great, but I don't know. I'm still not super sold on that running back room. So that would be a landing spot that I would personally love to see. I think with Damian Harris signing with the Bills, I think that kind of there goes away his opportunity there. But you never know. I mean, Harris is a good running back, but he's not. If a team can think that they can get anything out of Zeke, I bet you that they would still pick him over Harris. But
what about the Panthers as an interesting landing spot?
Yeah, because I mean they have Hubbard and Sanders, but yeah, that makes sense because I have a feeling they're just going to want to run the ball.
Mm-hmm. And I mean I don't know how the franchise feels about itself, but I've heard. All reports coming out of Panthers camp is that owner David Tepper told Scott Fitter, the general manager, go all in. I want to win this year. Yep. That division is very open for the taking. So I could see them signing a player like Zeke to maybe a 1-year, $4 million deal in August, just to bring in as a veteran back. Because the room's it's all younger backs right now. Miles Sanders, it's his 5th year in the league. Chuba's still on his rookie contract. Might not be a bad idea for a veteran back. Because the one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about is pass blocking when it comes to running backs.
I was about to bring that up. Yep.
And I know that the last time we saw Zeke on the field, the blocking situation didn't work out so well for him. No. But hey, he asked the man to play center, a position he hasn't played before. I think for a young rookie quarterback, having a third down back that you can deploy effectively as a pass blocker would be super invaluable to an offense like Carolina.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's for all of, his contract and just kind of the personality behind him I feel like has some people rooting for his downfall a little bit. But he's still experienced and he's still fine. He's a good, he'll belong on an NFL team this year.
Yeah, 100%. He's getting signed somewhere, and he will have a role on whatever team he lands on. Because I know Dead Legs is the moniker that gets associated with Zeke, but I think some people hammer that point home a little bit too much.
Yep. So 4th round, this is where we start getting the players that you just hope make the team. Who have you been targeting in this later rookie draft round? Anyone that's really standing out to you?
Yeah, so this player I got clued in on after the combine when RAS scores came out. For those that don't know, RAS score is relative athletic score. It's a great project by, I want to pull up the website because I don't want to miscredit the guy who started it. I think Math Bombs is his name on Twitter. But basically, he compiles all the athletic testing numbers from the combine into one single number, which it puts a lot of great context. Yeah, Math Bomb. You can find him on Twitter at Math Bomb for all of his work. So he has a website, ras.football. So basically, he takes all the combine testing, puts it together, and he gives you one single number, similar to what Jared and Garrett do with the Nerd Score. As far as like a film type of perspective, this is like an analytics testing type of perspective. So after the combine, one name that stuck out to me was Bryce Ford Wheaton, and he'll be the player I select here. He is a wide receiver from West Virginia. 2 things I love about him. One is his frame. He is, I want to say he's 6'4", and like 225. Which is something that this draft class doesn't have outside of Quentin Johnston, but he's even got more weight than Johnston. Hold on one second. I'm grabbing it literally right now. Yes, so he's 6'4", 221, which is like Calvin Johnson type size. And he had a RAS score of 9.96, which this is on a scale of 10. It only goes up to 10. This is the highest score from the wide receiver class this year. And then I believe out of every wide receiver since 1990 it's a top 20 score athletically since 1990. Now you turn on the tape and you see a number of issues with drops and stuff like that. There's a reason we're talking about him in the 4th round. He's not a refined product by any stretch of the imagination, but in the 4th round, you need to be looking for that athletic upside, because one thing general managers in the NFL love doing in the later rounds is drafting pure athletes with the hope that their coaching staff can get some value out of that player. So I feel like Bryce Ford Wheaton is going to be like my number 1 late round target in rookie drafts this year. I just got to be careful because don't want him going any higher.
That's awesome. That's great insight right there. Let's get a couple of these questions out of the way that's been asked in chat, and then we'll start up the 1 quarterback draft. We are about halfway full. So if you want to draft, it doesn't matter if you drafted the last one. Just hop on in and we'll get that filled up. So old man Tasich asks, do you think it's time to buy Swift for a future first? Let's say a 2024 first.
I was talking about this on another show. I was on Saturday night, and I don't know if we've hit the buy low window yet with DeAndre Swift. Yeah. I think we were talking about this before we went live, how it's a new front office, it's a new coaching staff since Swift was drafted, and they aren't committed to him. They brought in David Montgomery almost immediately as soon as free agency started. It'd be one thing if they waited until, like, say today to sign David Montgomery, and they're like, all right, they thought about this for a while, then they decided to bring another running back. This was something that was like premeditated. They were like, all right, when free agency opens, we're targeting a running back. And, David Montgomery was one of the premier backs that was available in free agency this year. So the speed which they signed Montgomery is a concern. And I still don't rule out them drafting a running back this year. This is a very deep running back class, and I think that good value can be found in the 3rd and the 4th round of the actual NFL draft. And I wouldn't rule out the Lions taking a back either late day 2 or early day 3. And if that was the case, like, let's say, for example, a player like Eric Gray lands on the Detroit Lions. Now, just think about what the narrative surrounding DeAndre Swift will be as soon as that selection happens. Oh, the front office isn't sold in. The coaching staff doesn't like him. They already brought in his replacement, yada, yada, yada. Now, listen, I'm not saying Eric Gray is talented as DeAndre Swift, but talent only takes you so far in the NFL. You have to have the backing of the team, the coaching staff. So if DeAndre Swift is a player you are looking to acquire, I would wait until the NFL draft, because I think there are more moves the Lions will make that could potentially lower his value to where you might be able to get him for, say, 2 seconds. Because the other thing I like to mention is my 24 first-round picks in Superflex, flex upside, and then, God forbid, Montgomery gets hurt, he'll be one of those hot waiver wire type of guys in redraft, which will surge a spike in his price in Dynasty. So I'm not going to call the bottom yet on DeAndre Swift. There is still more bottoms to be had, unfortunately.
That's awesome. DTF Dubzilla 365 says, I'm first to like the stream. Be like them. Like the stream. Thanks, everyone. Another question from a baby hippo. Another more draft relevant question. I have 101 and 109. I traded for 101 2 years ago. I need wide receiver help. Do I draft one at 109, or do I try to trade it for an existing wide receiver? Who should I target? Personally, I'm leaning DJ Moore. If you can trade him straight up for DJ Moore, 109 for DJ Moore. I was like that, kind of a player. Terry McLaurin, you could probably get that. If I could get Jahan Dotson there for that value, I would. Any other wide receiver targets that jump to your mind? Because at 109, you could, Addison or Johnston are going to be there, but
is this one quarterback or super flex? I didn't see him mention.
The last question that they asked,
he hasn't mentioned league format, either one.
Let's super flex.
I was gonna say, let me just answer this from both points of view.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the same answer. I feel like I was just talking about earlier with 109, whether it's super flex or one quarterback, you're falling outside of that first tier of players. So a player I would love to target with the 109 is Jameson Williams.
Perfect.
That Lions offense is ready to explode next year. And they brought back all the relevant pieces that Ben Johnson wanted in his offense. And I think they're going to take a step forward with Jameson Williams' usage. He was a player I loved last year, and I know we didn't see a lot of him on the field in 2022, but what we did see was very electric. So you got to imagine Jameson Williams with a full complement of snaps and targets. I could easily see him finishing as a wide receiver 2 this year. And I feel like for those that aren't super tuned into what he's done and are just kind of box score scouting, I feel like that's like a perfect target with a late first round pick this year.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, they had him block, you know, when he was
Yeah.
on the field, which
Yeah.
to me was super encouraging. Just saying for his health, you know. But yeah, out of any wide receiver in that draft, maybe other than Garrett Wilson, he has the highest upside. And if you can get him for 109, that to me is a deal that I would do 10 out of 10 times. We have 2 more slots open in the 1 quarterback. So if anyone wants to join, we can get that. Oh, a baby hippo says 1 quarterback. So that 109 will be a little bit less valuable, but
Yeah.
still, those are good targets to go after. If I need to add on to get Williams, like a high second, or a player like
Darnell
Isaiah
Mooney.
McKenzie, who just signed with the Colts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. But okay, so next question is Mario asks, was offered pick 105 and 108 with Edwards-Helaire for Etienne, I think, ETM for
I was gonna
SBI.
say who's ETM is like Elijah Moore. Is Elijah Moore's middle name like Theodore? Elijah Theodore Moore.
I think that's Etienne. So 1 quarterback. So you're gonna get. So 105 is gonna get you around. You might be missing out. You're gonna be missing out on Robinson and Gibbs. So Etienne, man, if I'm trading away 2 firsts with Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Throwing piece at this point.
yeah, it's crazy. I'm just not a huge fan of Etienne. But if you really need it, he also has 104. So I don't hate it. I'm pretty lukewarm on that deal. What do you think?
I read the question that he has Travis Etienne, and he's getting offered 105, 108, and CEH for him, which I would do that.
Oh, that makes sense. Yep.
I would do that. I honestly think that you don't even have to pick at 105, 108. I think you can then move those picks for like a super big upgrade. Like say you are a contender right now. You can target a player like Austin Eckler, who has a lot of questions surrounding his future with the Chargers. It's a lot of weird reports coming out of him just wanting more money, and maybe the Chargers aren't looking to make that happen. He's a type of running back that no matter what team he goes to, he's going to be giving you RB1 type of production. So if you're a contender, you can trade Etienne for that package, let the natural rookie hype increase the value of those picks you hold. And then on draft day, you could move 105 and 108, or maybe 105 and a later pick, and target a running back like Austin Eckler and, go win that championship right now. So it's a move I would make, and you don't even necessarily need to draft at those spots because, like we said, there is a pretty big cutoff in tiers somewhere between 105 and 108. So yeah, I would make that move if I could, if I were you.
Perfect. Let's see. Mike asks, Joel traded in Superflex 203 for Keenan Allen. I that.
I love that. Yeah.
Mike, let's see. Joel says I traded Tony in a 2024
question mark for
something for J.K. Dobbins.
If
Honestly, if that's a first, I still like it. What do you think? Let's just assume that that's a 2024 first.
Oh, I am not high on J.K. Dobbins.
Oh man.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little bit opposite ends of the spectrum on that one, unfortunately.
Where are you with Tony?
Tony, I love Tony as a buy right now.
Okay.
I think that I feel like because he was traded mid-season last year, right, to the Chiefs from the Giants, and I feel like Andy Reid didn't get enough time to fully flesh out his role. in this offense.
Mhm.
So they're losing Juju Smith-Schuster because he is now on the Patriots. They are probably losing Mecole Hardman. So they're going to have Marcus Valdes-Scantling will be signed there. Travis Kelce is obviously there. So Tony is in for a much bigger role. And it's almost similar to Jameson Williams that I was talking about earlier. What we saw as far as like route participation and snap count was limited. But on that limited basis, he was electric and very efficient with the ball. So I think he's in for a big year in 2023 on this Kansas City Chiefs offense. And the other thing is the Chiefs had the last pick in the first round, and I don't think they go offensive weapon there. I think they go probably offensive line or on the defense. So I think his role is pretty secure for the upcoming season.
Okay, so I am throwing out the link to the Twitter sphere so we can get that filled up.
All right, one more. One more, and we're off to the races. Yeah, I'll grab one while you share links. All right, so we have a question from T.N. Thomason, I believe it looks like. It says, I'm in a complete rebuild in a super flex with 10 starting positions. My best quarterbacks are Ryan Tannehill and Zach Wilson. I have the 101 and the 102 this year. Who are you drafting? All right, so the 101 is going to be Bijan. I know your quarterback room is in shambles right now, but Bijan is the type of player that you are going to be able to flip for multiple assets once we get to the NFL season. I feel like he's going to be a running back one in 2023, no matter what team he lands on. So you may be tempted to trade out of the 101 right now. But personally, for my leagues, I haven't seen huge packages being offered for Bijan at this moment. So if you can move the 101 and get, let's say, I'd want starting caliber player. I'd want 124 first, but if there's a team with 224 first that you can find and get that'd be perfect. But I think that price is going to go up. So I would go ahead and select Bijan at the 101, knowing in your head that you are going to move him at some point during the season. And then the 102, you are obviously going to go quarterback. Now, I feel like this quarterback class is kind of personal preference. How much risk do you like? And it seems like you've taken a lot of risk already with that Zach Wilson selection. I mean, I don't know what happened there, but so you might be scared off of a player like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis because you might be like, all right, I don't want Zach Wilson 2.0. The thing is, though, you are still way early into this rebuilding process because Ryan Tannehill is not guaranteed a starting job past this year, maybe even this year, depending on various moves that occur around the league. So I would take the upside of Anthony Richardson because if he flops, you're choosing Caleb Williams next year. And then if he hits, you can also flip him for multiple other assets as well as Bijan. So I personally would be going Bijan and then Anthony Richardson, shooting for that upside to hit the hard reset button on your roster, and then keep in mind that you might want to be flipping those assets during the year. But all right, looks like we're full for this draft.
There we go. Okay,
Let's get it on.
Yeah. Baby Hippo is saying interested to see how quarterbacks fall in one quarterback draft. Yeah, it's always fun. I usually see one go top 6. How do you value quarterback in one quarterback?
So in one quarterback, if I'm taking a rookie quarterback in my rookie draft, I am shooting for pure upside.
Yep.
The reasoning behind that being is that I can just trade for a veteran quarterback later. You know,
Yep.
like what's a Derek Carr or a Jimmy Garoppolo going for in a one quarterback league right now? A third?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
in one quarterback league, you can always replace that starting quarterback production with relatively low draft costs. So if I am taking the swing on one in the first round, I want to shoot for that upside. I want to get that Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen type player. So for me personally, Anthony Richardson would be the only quarterback I would consider in the first round
Okay.
of a rookie draft. And then the second round is where I would start targeting those, you know, Strouds, Youngs, and then Levis would probably be, I want to say, a late second rounder for me in a one quarterback league. So my order stays the same, just where I take them is going to be a lot different.
Yeah. So talking about upside, how would you list those quarterbacks in order of upside?
For me, order of upside would be Richardson, tier 1 by himself for upside. I would say Stroud, Levis, and then Young in that order for upside.
Yep. Okay, let's see. A-Chain, 107. That being said, it's one quarterback, so that makes more sense. But I am definitely seeing a value jump with A-Chain recently because he was going like mid second like a month ago. So, oh man, who am I going for? Man, do I have to? Am I going to do it again? Okay, if I didn't already draft Spears in the last draft, that's who I'm going for. But I'm drafting Hyatt. He is my wide receiver 3 in this class still, even with the kind of crappy combine. But so I prefer him ahead of Flowers and Downs, although I do love Downs.
Hyatt's a very interesting one for me. I think he's going to be very landing spot dependent on how I feel about him. He has a very particular skill set that he wins with, and that's deep speed. And I think the offense that he lands with will tell us a great deal about how much the NFL values that type of player nowadays.
Yeah, and I do think he does offer some upside with his route running. I just don't think he was asked to do very much.
No, that whole Tennessee offense was very unique in the way it operated. It's why Hooker and Tillman are also receiving a lot of flack on their profiles right now because the Tennessee offense wasn't something that you can replicate at the NFL level. So it's very hard to copy over that production and that skills from that SEC offense to an NFL team. But with anything in life, I think, hate can go too far at a certain point, and people got to look at the big picture of things that they did produce in the SEC against very high level defenders.
Yep. Well, you drafted Johnson again.
Yeah.
Kincaid goes 204. The difference between Mayer and Kincaid, it's always interesting to see where they both go in drafts because Mayer's he's always been that tight end 1 in this class, and I don't really think very many people even knew of the name Kincaid, it was like 8 months ago, but I understand why, but I just can't wait for the NFL draft and see where both of them go.
It's going to be very exciting because I think a part of that is that during the college football season, we kind of talk about what are the best players, and Mayer's the best tight end, the overall tight end in this class. And now I think a lot of people are starting to realize that within the tight end designation, there are multiple different types of players. And I think people are realizing that it's the Kincaids and the Musgraves that you want for fantasy because they're not going to be asked to block quite as much, a la Travis Kelce or like a Mike Gesicki almost. Yeah. Mayer is going to be more of your George Kittle. Like a George Kittle type, because I'm sure you've seen the clips on social media that George Kittle loves blocking. I think he would rather just pancake people all day and not score a single touchdown, which for fantasy purposes is frustrating. But he's having a ball out there.
Yeah.
So I
No,
think
how many times have you heard like the word blocking tight end? Like, oh, he's a good tight end, but he's a blocking tight end. And it's like, okay, I get it, but at the end of the day, if this tight end can be an elite pass catcher like a George Kittle can, like he'll still be good for fantasy football. But it's a good tiebreaker though.
And also the other thing you got to remember is that they will see the field.
Yep.
You know, like obviously this doesn't affect the tight end going in the first or the early second of the NFL draft. But if a tight end is going in the 4th or 5th round, that pass blocking is an asset you want to take advantage of, because that means they will be on the field, because the coach doesn't have to take them off, you know, for a better version of a blocking tight end.
Wow. That's kind of a crazy drop, I think. Spears is still on the board.
Yeah.
I'll draft him here.
I gotta say, because I know people who've been watching my content and shows for a while, you know, I was such a big Spears believer, and they might be noticing that I have Roshan and maybe a couple other running backs above Spears. I've come to the realization, looking at this class as a whole, is that Spears is an amazing pass catcher, but I'm unsure if he has 3-down back potential. Whereas players like a Roshan and a Charbonnet, they have the frame to be 3rd-down running backs. So I think while I love Spears and I think he's going to be a great PPR asset for my fantasy teams, I think his ceiling is just not as high as a Roshan or a Charbonnet may display. So that's why Spears is my running back 5 right now. I know I had him a little bit higher after the Senior Bowl, but he's currently running back 5 for me in this draft class.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me, is like draft capital is one of those players. Like with him, it's definitely okay. How high is he being taken? Is he going to be a focal point of the team's offense? Because if he falls a little bit, I'll have to change up my rankings of him.
Yeah, like for example, that PFF mock we were going off last night.
Yeah,
he went in the 3rd round, 73rd overall to the Houston Texans, which I actually love for him, because they have about 80 vacated targets from the running back room with Dare and Rex Burkhead leaving. Yep. Yeah. So I think that would be a great role for him, working alongside Dameon Pierce as like the pass catching option for in that draft. Bryce Young went to the Texans. So I think that would be a great landing spot for him in an offense.
That would be fun. Side note, if you can, trade away Dameon Pierce. With Singletary signing with the Texans, maybe the value's falling off, but I love Pierce. That's a hard thing for me to say. Is I really like him as a player, and I think he's super solid, but the hard thing is he's just not elite in anything. And you look at the late round running backs that do work out long term in the NFL, they're really good at something. You know, you got the Aaron Joneses and the Austin Ecklers, and they're very good at catching the ball, and they're very solid at everything else. So when I look at Pierce, NFL teams nowadays aren't afraid to have running backs that have strengths in certain areas. They kind of like that, you know, to have like a James Cook and a Damian Harris kind of, you know, set up.
I've noticed a lot of NFL teams are constructing both their running back and wide receiver rooms as like the basketball approach. Like each person is a specialist in one thing, and they are potentially elite at that thing. And, you know, it's the combination of those skills put together that will elevate the offense to a certain level.
Yeah. And they can usually all do everything, but they have one specialized skill that they really strive in. Let's see where else. Musgrave going in the 3rd round, I think, is awesome. Okay. So you drafted Boutte.
Mm-hmm.
So
beginning of the 3rd round.
Yeah. Is that kind of your goal? If you're in the
if he's
draft him there.
If he's there in the 3rd round, that's kind of like the target spot for me for him. Okay. Nothing about the pre-draft process has been kind to him. And
nothing at all.
No,
I've never seen like
ever since their bowl game, it's been downhill from him.
Yeah.
he's the type of player that I'm very interested to see how the NFL feels about.
Yeah.
Because going into the 2022 college football season, I had a big 4 wide receivers. You know, it was JSN, Addison, Quentin Johnston, and Kayshon Boutte. And he's fallen out of that significantly.
Yep.
Now, we'll use another LSU player as an example, Derek Stingley Jr. He is the cornerback for the Texans, selected in the top 5 last year, who had an amazing freshman season in 2019 and was one of the top-rated corners in the nation. And then a combination of injuries and lack of production led to subpar sophomore and junior seasons. The Texans bought into that talent and still selected him in the top 5. And we could see he was overshadowed by Mark Gardner this past year, but he's still been a very productive corner and has justified that top 5 pick.
Yep.
Now, are NFL teams going to use that same theory when they look at a player like Boutte, who had a very successful freshman year on the scene, and then combination of injuries and lack of production led to sophomore and junior slumps? And are NFL franchises going to buy into unlocking that freshman year level of talent? And once they get him onto a squad where they can, kind of monitor his day-to-day activities and really instill, work ethic in him. So I can see him going anywhere from the mid-second of the NFL draft to the 6th round.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of at the point where I'm just going to let the NFL tell me how to feel about him.
That's great thoughts. Same here. He has great potential, but there's every year we have these players that we fell in love with, at the beginning of the college season. Like, okay, this is going to be I was hearing at least like the next Jamar Chase from some people that I listened to, and like that was kind of their, okay, he's going to step up, and but he just didn't. And it'll be, like you said, it's very, where does he get drafted? If he gets drafted in 2nd or 3rd, then I'm more in on him. But yeah, he could legitimately fall 6th, 7th round.
Because I gotta say, if anybody's like out on him, go back and watch that freshman year tape.
Yeah,
you'll fall in love all over again. And also that LSU team was a bit of a mess. After his freshman year, they fired Coach O. Despite winning a national championship 2 years prior, it's there's a team still trying to find itself. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'll allow the NFL to tell me what to think about him.
Sedated Fork asks, you all think that Mayer and Kincaid's values are going to depend more on landing spot or draft capital? So let's say, oh man, I'm trying to think of extreme versions of this.
I can think of one.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
So I feel like ultimate landing spot for Kincaid would be the Chiefs. Like I talked about earlier in that PFF mock that we used last night. Travis Kelce is 34, and then let's say they use the 1st round selection on Kincaid. That means he's locked in with Patrick Mahomes for the next 5 years, and you have to imagine at some point Kelce will be phased out of that offense and eventually retire. And he's, was it Noah Gray is the backup tight end there right now? He's obviously much better than Noah Gray. So I feel like that would be like the peak combination of landing spot and draft capital for Kincaid. And then for Mayer, I got to say Cincinnati is probably the dream for him. It's a team that can use a tight end who's good at blocking, but at the same time is also a above average pass catching weapon. And that would be 1st round draft capital as well. So that would be our ceiling outcomes. Our floor outcomes would be
either of them gets drafted by the Patriots.
I gotta say, and then falling outside of the 2nd round to the 3rd, which I don't see happening.
No.
Like I said, we have to let the NFL tell us a little bit about these players, because at the end of the day, we spend so much time analyzing these prospects and doing these mock drafts and everything. But like, look at Malik Willis last year. In all the Superflex rookie mocks before the NFL draft, he was a top 3, top 5 asset. And then him and every other quarterback in that draft class fell, outside of the first 2 rounds. And you have to change everything you think about these players. So if these players were to fall out of the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft, that would be a signal to me that I have to adjust my rankings on, where I should be ranking these tight ends amongst the rest of the draft class. So especially now with us only being about a month out of the NFL draft, we have to remember that, as good as we think we are at this, we're not paid for it. It's not our full-time job, and these teams are investing millions of dollars and thousands of man hours determining what order these players should be in, and we should let that dictate our direction at least a little bit when it comes to where to rank them for fantasy football purposes.
No, great thoughts. What was your favorite draft pick from this draft? Value-wise,
Spears at the end of the second for you is killer value. But if I had to name somebody outside of your pick, I think Izzy at the top of the third, Israel Abanikanda. I think we are going to see him closer to early to mid second round when it comes to actual rookie drafts when they start happening.
He has upside for days.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a couple of these running backs that are going around him that just don't offer that same upside. I actually have also been kind of impressed with I haven't seen a lot of film on Ibrahim going at 402, but from what I have seen, I've actually been like semi-impressed. And so if I can get a running back that I think could potentially step up in the 4th round, I like that.
Yeah, like I've been saying, I feel like on every show that I've been on the past couple of weeks, this running back class is super, super deep. And I made a statement on Saturday, and it might be hot takey or it might not be. I don't know. I'll let you tell me your feedback. But I've also said this to you before, but the 2023 running back class is going to be what we wanted the 2020 running back class to be, as far as giving us long-term fantasy assets and almost resetting the running back market when it comes to dynasty fantasy football. And that's one of the reasons that I've spent all offseason collecting every 2nd and 3rd round pick that I can in my dynasty leagues, just because I don't think every one of them is going to hit, but I bet you if I could get 6 of them, then there's a good chance I'll get at least 3 productive backs out of this class. And the price of 2nd and 3rd round picks varies from league to league, but they could be had for quite cheap.
Yep. No, that's for sure. Side note, with Joel's trade, it was Tony and a 2024 2nd for Dobbins. Does that change your mind at all, or are you still going on the Tony 2024 2nd?
I still like the Tony side.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will disagree with you. But if it was a first, I could see definitely like having that upside of it being a top 5, top 8 pick. But with it being a 24 2nd, right now I kind of have noticed a little bit of a value shift when it has come to the 2024 season, because there's a lot of like really big name players, but I don't think it's going to be a very deep class.
I think it will be pretty top heavy. But I mean, we could be, we could be fooled. Seniors emerge all the time, and
it happens all the time. Every class.
Yeah, players fall off, and who's to say that Drake May doesn't turn into Sam Howell?
Elite.
Sorry, I forgot. Wrong person to bring that up to.
I was like, okay, so it lives up to expectations. Okay, I get it. Okay, so we got quite the trade. It's a trade package.
Mm-hmm.
By question mark. I didn't know that you could even have that as a username. 1 quarterback PPR 12 team, start 8. I have the 101, 102, 104, 212, 305, and 404. Huge rebuild. So one side, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Jones, Rashad White, Rondell Moore, Deontay Johnson, Khalil Herbert, KJ Osborne. That's his roster.
I was gonna say that can't be the.
I was like, for the 104. I was like, I mean, yeah, do that.
I think what he's
Oh,
trying to
okay.
say is that's his
Trade the
roster, and
104.
should he trade out of the
Yes.
104?
Okay,
So
102
101, 102, you're locked into whatever players you want. 103 will have their choice, and then you'll get at 104 the fourth best or potentially third best player on your board, depending on how the pick in front of you goes. I would stand pat.
Yeah.
I would stand pat. And I know I've hammered this point home a couple times throughout this show, but stand pat for at least now, because just reminder to everyone, rookie draft picks are never as more valuable as the moment that the timer starts on that pick. You know, like you might have a guy in your league who just loves A-Chain. You know, he's got to have A-Chain. So he's got to have that 104, and he's going to offer you, you know, a king's ransom for it. So anybody who's holding a top 7 pick right now, regardless of format, do not trade that pick currently. It's only going to increase in value. And like I said earlier, if you are a player from 108 to 112, start inquiring about trading up, because we're seeing a clear tier break develop around the 107, 108 in superflex drafts. In one quarterback, it's a little bit earlier, probably like 105, 106. But yeah, if you have a top pick in this year's draft, please just hold on to it unless you're getting offered a king's ransom.
And the nice thing is he has the 101 and 102.
Mhm.
So you can kind of control if you really want Gibbs at 2, but he was thinking Robinson and GSN at 1 and 2, which I agree with. I would lean JSN over Gibbs. Where are you with that?
I'm fine letting landing spot tell me how to rank those players.
Yeah.
Bijan is my clear tier 1. Gibbs is a tier 2 running back by himself. And then JSN is a tier 1 wide receiver by himself right now. My big 4 wide receiver from preseason college has shredded away to being a big 1 with JSN. Yeah. So, and then also I allow kind of my roster to determine that. Did I trade into this pick? Did I earn this pick by being a terrible roster? You know, if I earned it, JSN is probably an asset I look at a little bit closer because I'm not ready to compete. And Gibbs he's kind of like the cherry on top type of piece where he's going to give you that production right away. And as we've seen with players like Zeke, you know, this offseason, and even Austin Eckler is dealing with it, that the NFL is just not paying second contracts to running backs at a very high level. You know, David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, they had to fall to free agency and land on new teams to retain their fantasy value for 2023. So, meanwhile, you've got wide receivers like, you know, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase that are locked into their second contracts before they even have the details released. So it's a big case of if I traded for that pick or if I earned that pick. And if I earn that pick, I'm going to lean towards the wide receiver and the long-term asset. And if I trade into that pick, then I'm going to take advantage of the value that I have in front of me and grab the running back to try to, you know, cap off a championship roster.
And looking at their roster, Deonta Johnson is really their only notable wide receiver. So it makes a lot of sense for GSN there.
Yeah.
So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to drop them in chat. And as for anything else, let's see. We covered where we can find you. So there's been a couple of free agent moves recently. Anything that stands out to you? Let's say the Texans signing Singletary and Dalton Schultz. What are the chances of them both becoming fantasy relevant?
I think Schultz has a good chance. A lot of people were mocking the Texans to a tight end in the early second round, from what I've seen. And I'm not saying that eliminates that chance of happening, but it just kind of lessens the chance that it happens. So we've seen Schultz produce before. He's very talented as a player. And I think not gonna say it's still a stock down because the Texans offense will be less potent than the Cowboys offense is, but I think he's still going to be a viable fantasy asset. And then as far as other, I mean, I feel like we can't talk about free agency without talking about the Lamar situation.
Yeah.
That's like the big question looming over the NFL right now. And I don't know if I've shared this concept or idea with you, but I know right away a bunch of teams released statements saying that they were out on Lamar. And I'm not saying that they are lying, but I think it was more like, PR department covering some bases. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are out on Lamar Jackson. I think that there's still a chance that they sign him to a deal and send the 2 first-round picks that are required on the unrestricted franchise tag, because the way that tag works is you have to send your next 2 draft picks, the draft picks that your team earns in the NFL draft. If they did that deal right now, they'd be sending the 8th overall pick. However, if they wait to the day after the NFL draft, it'd be the 24 and the 25 first, which you have to imagine would be closer to the 20th overall pick in those years if you're adding an asset like Lamar. We know owner Arthur Blank was very heavily into the Deshaun Watson move before the Browns made a last-second offer of a fully guaranteed deal. So we know he is the type of owner that is looking to add a franchise quarterback and is willing to pay the assets that it takes to get him, because the Deshaun trade was 4 firsts. And everything I've heard, the only difference between the Browns offer and the Falcons offer was the Browns were fully guaranteeing that contract, which says to me that the Falcons also had an offer of at least 3 firsts on the table from the Texans. So I think he is fine sending that draft capital. The guaranteed contract was obviously a holdup with the Watson deal, but maybe he's come to realization, be like, all right, I missed out on Deshaun Watson because of that one minor detail. Let me not make that mistake again. So I don't think Lamar to the Falcons is still out of the realm of possibilities. And obviously that would shake up a lot with the fantasy landscape for many of the players we talked about, J.K. Dobbins, specifically.
Yeah. And also, even if they just wanted to trade out of that 8th overall pick and do like a draft day trade, because it doesn't have to be like the Falcons could even just say, okay, just give us the 8th and we would do the trade. It doesn't have to be the 2
No,
firsts,
actually, so that's a bit of a misconception. It has to be 2 firsts.
Like really? Because from everyone that I was...
The trade terms are like locked in. It's part of the CBA now.
Really?
They can't like back out and be like, all right, well, how about we'll do 8 and then second next year. Like it's locked into the 2 firsts. Yeah, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Wow. Okay. Well, I need to tell some people that they don't know their stuff then. But and also, I mean, you can send. Oh, well, there goes you can use Desmond Ridder as a trade piece too, because you have to have 2 firsts with that.
I mean, so there's nothing against them also trading Desmond Ridder to the Ravens, but it had to be like a separate transaction.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to the grocery store and you have 2 coupons and you're like, all right, you got to register up twice.
Yep. Okay, so we have a couple questions. Christopher St. Jean, where would Marvin Harrison Jr. fall on this board if he were draft eligible? My opinion, 101, even in Superflex, over Robinson.
Ooh. I'd go 102.
Okay.
But I mean, I could debate that one I could think about that one for a little while, but I mean, we both agree he'd be at the top end of either board. I would take Marvin Harrison over all these quarterbacks. That's for sure. Bijan is the only holdup for me.
Yeah. The big tiebreaker for me is, I would say, like, talent wise, I would say that they're fairly similar, but just the shelf life of a wide receiver would put it over the top for me. But Robinson's also just really good, though. Let's see. A Baby Hippo asks, value of 2024 picks. Where would you start trading 2023 firsts for 2024 first rounders? So after the 8th pick in Superflex, including the 8th pick, I would trade for 2024 picks on bad teams. Teams that you think could have a high probability of finishing below
Out of the
8.
playoffs. Yeah,
Out of the
basically.
playoffs. Because like what we've said multiple times this live stream is that the 2024 class has some studs, but even, I remember last year looking at 2023 class, it was very easy to project that it was going to be a very deep class. We don't quite have that with 2024. So if I'm trading 23 first, I want it to be to bad teams. But any other thoughts there?
No, I agree. Any pick after 8 in this year's draft class, I would take a 24 first and then a second or a third this year on top, because you're getting 24 draft capital, which we love, and then you get another lottery ticket at one of those running backs that I was talking about earlier. So you get the best of both worlds.
Perfect. Sedated Fork asks, just curious on your thoughts on JSN. He seemed to drop a lot of balls when I was looking at film, but seemed good against zone coverage. Any concern about his hands? Nothing that really stood out to me. He has a pretty high hands grade for me, to be honest.
No, I agree. Also, I don't think drops are a sticky stat, personally. Yeah. I think that's something that players can easily work on and fix. And then I think there's also a bit of variance with drops.
Yeah, even look at Christian Watson, first half of the season, drop city, and that was in his
first play of the season.
Yeah, oh man, that I really wish that was one of my biggest regrets, to not pursue Christian Watson more aggressively first half. But he did look like a Zach Wilson-esque bust for a bit. But that's a good reminder of trust the draft capital. Even if a rookie looks like a rookie, don't be scared too much away from him. But what are you looking up?
Me right now?
Yeah,
drops. I just wanted to see, just off the top of my head, where he ranks within this class.
I think if I remember correctly, his drop rate is around 8%. I don't know for sure though. I think Jordan Addison had a higher drop rate though. So I don't know. At least I'm not worried about it. I think, to me, he's the wide receiver 1. No questions asked. Whole another tier.
Yeah, he's I'm looking at PFF's data chart, and he's not even in the top 50 for drops in this class. So it's a lot of scrolling to get down to him. So you're good with drops on JSN. I wouldn't worry about it.
Sedated Fork, drop what game you were watching. I kind of want to watch that game. See if it was any just concentration drops or anything. But anyway, overall, I mentioned the film room. How can someone save 15% off of the film room, Dan?
All right, well, I got a deal for you. So you can actually just use the promo code LUNA, LUNA, at checkout for a Nerd Herd membership. You get 15% off the film room. I know the film editor guys are hard at work, yourself included, getting more film and more prospects up there. And I haven't really run into any issues with not finding film. So there's definitely enough film to keep you busy from now until draft day. So it's probably one of the best deals in Dynasty. And I even tell you, even if you find that you don't love the membership and you just want to do it a couple months out of the year, this is the best time to do it. From now until May, you could get all your access that you need in one single location. You can't beat that.
Yep. And you get access to our Discord and, like I said, our film room and Nerd Herd, the Nerd Herd podcast and all that stuff. Our Discord's looking pretty good, by the way. You're killing it on Mondays, and tonight, Dennis and I are going to do our trade stage, where we talk through trades and stuff. So everyone should hop in there. And overall, thanks for doing this, everyone. This was a blast. I love doing these mocks and just talking Dynasty fantasy football. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Yeah, let's take it easy.